respectable journalists. Let me begin with asking the first question, and then I'm going to turn it over to you. Andrey Viktorovich, here's my first question. How many times have you visited Moscow during the last time? Mr. Lashko says that you've done it 4 times. Here's my answer. Yes, I do confirm that I have visited Moscow, but every trip of mine has been confirmed with the senior leadership of SBU. Unfortunately, I cannot provide any more information due to subscription of non-disclosure. Next question. 1+1 TV channel. Mr. Andrey, what do you know about the reaction of Mr. Trump when it comes to mentioning by you the fact that Crimean territory might belong to the United States? I have not yet discussed this matter with the administration of Donald Trump, but as you can understand by following those articles in New York by New York Times and other international medias, yes, I did have a meeting, and the meeting went pretty good. This meeting took place on January 27 of 2017 at the hotel that was mentioned in the article. I've been talking and meeting with those two highly influential people, and they were listening to me quite intensively. There were some other people present, by the way. The answer that I've received was that all of my initiatives have been considered and going to be taken all the way to the all of the highest levels. Then we all heard that Mr. Thien, National Security Advisor, has stepped down. And as for now, these matters have not yet been discussed. Further discussed, those my initiatives. But I do plan, however, to visit Washington and New York in the nearest future and to continue my business. I'd like to get back attention to the Crimean crisis. I'd like to take more efforts to create a new negotiation table based on a Budapest Memorandum and invite all of the signatory countries, United Kingdom, United States, Russia, Ukraine, to cooperate look for the solution, how to stop this war and how to find a way out of this Russian-Ukrainian crisis. Next question. 1+1 TV channel. Coming back to the Crimean issue, how certain you are? The deal could already be over, and perhaps the Russian Federation has already paid back its financial obligations to the United States. Yes, perhaps. My business is to make political statements and make people aware, and I have not been part of negotiation process on this matter. This is not interest of mine. What I care about is the future of my country. Radio Svoboda, your colleague Sergei Oleshenko recently wrote about that in his opinion the ideas and plans you voiced were already announced by other people such as Mr. Lovochkin, Mr. Boyko, and Mr. Surkov. Similar points were voiced by Mr. Lashko as well. Can you get specifics on those personalities? Have you ever discussed with them any of your plans? Thank you for the question. I would like to officially announce that I have never discussed any of my plans with above-mentioned persons. In fact, I never met with Mr. Surkov in my life. However, I do personally know Mr. Lashko, Mr. Lovochkin, and Mr. Boyko. By the way, Mr. Lashko was aware of my peace initiatives, and it should have become the Radical Party strategy. I was representing the party, and I had a mandate from our fraction in the parliament and our leader, Mr. Leshko. As for my trips, during our fraction meetings, we quite often discussed the possible outcome of Mr. Trump's presidential campaign victory, and I was the only deputy around here who publicly showed support to Mr. Trump in his attempts to become a U.S. president. Once again, I am publicly announcing that neither Mr. Boyko nor Mr. Lovochkin have any connection to my peace initiatives. I have never met with them on this matter, nor discussed it with them. Question. Have Mr. Leshko ever told you that he doesn't support any of your peace initiatives? Just an opposite. Mr. Mr. Leshko should have actually been traveling together with me to the United States and participate in every event I've scheduled for him. He was scheduled to attend the inauguration of the president, which Mr. Leshko publicly stated, to attend prayer breakfast, meetings with Ukrainian diaspora, meetings with influential congressmen, senators, influential representatives of the inner circle of the current president, and other people. He was fully informed of it, but unfortunately, after what have happened, our fraction in the parliament haven't passed this test. Without clear understanding of what is going to happen next, they have cut me off. Let it be and remain on Mr. Leshko's conscience. However, I'm very grateful to Oleg Valerievich Leshko for the chance to enter into the politics. I'm grateful to the Radical Party, which is the very party I've supported. And by the way, I have never used my vote during the plenary session against the demands of Mr. Leshko's party, but voted accordingly. I wish them all the best. I wish them luck on the past or the future or the early parliamentary election. And I propose personally to Mr. Leshko to become a president of Ukraine if he can. Irina Shevchenko, have you ever discussed any of your peace initiatives with any of the Russian representatives? I have said this before and I'm going to repeat myself again. I have never discussed any of my peace initiatives with any of the Russian senior leadership or representatives. All of my initiatives are based on the public opinion, sociology, polls, roundtables, people's opinion, as well as my personal convictions. And I've only discussed it within the United States or within the Ukraine, with my colleagues, my assistants, my friends who consider me being on the right track. And the most important, I have to say, I got nothing to apologize for. I'm convinced that I'm right and I'm going the right way. All we have to do is just wait for what is going to come next. It's just the beginning, my friends. I know we're going to be able to stop this war. I know we're going to be able to stop this conflict. And I just know that we cannot allow ourselves to make the same mistake today in 2017 as we did back in 1917. I'm going to do everything in my power not to let the situation develop into what happened in 1990 and 1920 when we lost our identity as independent state of Ukraine. Thank you. Gromadsky TV. Andrey, please tell us about your political allies, who they are. Secondly, can you name those deputies who actually share your and work together on your peace initiatives? Well, Ukraine reality is such, if you are doing what you're doing and you're influential, got right connections, got money, then you're going to have a lot of friends around you. But after what happened to me, I have found my life to be divided into two parts, the life before the past week and the life after. The last week was the most important week of my life. I've been discussing all of my initiatives publicly, and it can be found so by looking at my Facebook page, as well as I've attended countless roundtables where I discuss those issues together with my colleagues, deputies. But after what happened, all of my colleagues that I've worked with have called me and asked me not to mention their names under the initiative. It's understandable enough. When charges have been pressed against me, technically not against me, it's facts following criminal case where I'm accused of state treason, then who would want to be part of it and stand by my side? I'm convinced that the history is going to put everything in order. I'm convinced in case of our victory, and I'm confident enough we're going to win. The whole parliament, as well as Ukrainian people, are going to stand by my side. I'm convinced that I'm on the right way, and in the future there are going to be tens, if not hundreds, of deputies who will voice their support of our initiative. Our main goal is to create a new platform with the participation of the United States and People's Deputy, because when the President of Ukraine cannot achieve Budapest Memorandum-based actions from a signatory presidents, according to which in 1994 Ukraine have lost its main protection, nuclear weapons, then the Parliament of Ukraine, which is a parliamentary presidential republic, has to take initiative into their own hands. The Parliament of the country has to represent Ukraine on an international arena and to create a new platform where the new compromise based on Budapest Memorandum has to be found in the current circumstances and relations. Otherwise, we will lose our country. You have to understand that the third Maidan is possible under the certain condition conditions which will result in eventual loss of our country. It will either turn into anarchy or the chaos, or we have to find a political way to include the most influential country of the world, the United States, into the negotiation process. I'm sure that this is the only way out of the crisis, the only way. So I know the Ukrainian reality pains me standing alone against everyone. You have heard my peace initiatives now. Help me to find a state treason in it. There is none. What they call a state treason in reality are my political initiatives and influential contacts, which I proved I have, and not only in the United States. I'm 48 years old, and I lived long enough to be able to find those international influential contacts which can particularly help our country, our homeland, Ukraine, to help us in the way to that will stop this war and restore our country's borders, to bring Crimea back, to find a compromise based on historical experience. This has to be on the main agenda of every conscious deputy whose goal is to stop this war. Therefore, I'm going to do all in my power to accomplish it, despite of the hardships I'm going through now. A question from the Facebook. Why do you think the Budapest format is going to be more effective compared to the Minsk format? And why do you oppose to the Ukraine joining NATO? Creating of a new platform based on the signatory countries of the Budapest Memorandum will lead to the enforcement of the obligation of Minsk format, or it will result into creating a new platform for negotiating process on the settlement of Russia-Ukrainian relation. I know some of the facts which have resulted United States to postpone the execution of the Budapest Memorandum. Yes, it has been postponed as one of the methods of settlement of the Ukrainian crisis. I know that Obama's administration, Vice President Mr. Biden, have received from the Ukrainian side propositions to mention Budapest Memorandum, but it wasn't convenient for them to do so. They have rather been focusing on delivering wonderful speeches in Verkhovna Rada as well as around the globe, expressing the full support to the Ukraine. And I want to ask them now, where is the real support? Where are the lethal weapons? Where are those measures in order to save our country? There are nowhere to be found. I'm convinced while the new American foreign policies are being built under the new administration, there are going to be a person in the nearest future put in a position of power to deal with the Ukrainian crisis, and the Budapest Memorandum going to be mentioned as the only platform to enforce the aggressor, and I mean the Russian Federation, to carry out its international obligations, and the most important, the return of the Crimean territory, the Ukrainian territories under the Ukrainian jurisdictions. Finding the exact way to do so, however, is another matter, but the compromise has to be found jointly with the assistance of the Crimean deputies. They have to represent the voice of Crimea. I'm convinced we're going to be able to find a solution for this crisis in the nearest future, especially with the involvement of the United States. Another question. Do you provide any changes to the Constitution in your peace plan? If it is so, please give any specifics. First of all, I've never called my initiatives a peace plan. Please do not call it so. Not everything that media says is true and factual. There are two realities. One, what I've truly discussed, and I confirmed that, and the other is rather fake news and fake reality based on things cut off the context. Where have you heard me say a peace plan or Crimea lease during my presentation? It's all been made up by the media. I was only talking about finding possible solutions for the issue. Artemenko's plan, as such, does not exist. I've achieved my goal. For the last week, Crimean issue has been mentioned so many times around the world. World-best experts are busy finding a solution for this issue, and I'm convinced we have to move this matter from categorical to the discussional. Where is Artemenko's plan, after all? Where have I proposed a lease Crimea to Russia? Show it to me. Who wrote it down? Who was that man who, by twisting of the facts, has brought so much harm to me personally and to my kids and to my mother, and caused a lot of troubles to my family? Excuse me for being so emotional. We have seriously considered changes to our Constitution. The time has come. I've registered in the Parliament Legislative Act on allowing dual citizenship. We have to stop this senseless and deceitful practice. The whole civilized world has allowed dual citizenship. People got to have a right to be a holder of 1, 2, perhaps 10 passports, depending on their legal conditions. Statistics show to us that the majority of Western Ukrainian people have dual citizenship. Over 100 parliamentarians of the Ukraine have dual citizenship. Over 17% of all Ukrainian people have dual citizenship. The whole civilized world has this practice, and then why Ukraine has to continue such a deceitful policy? Why up till today we haven't passed a new law that deals with this matter? What do we have to be afraid of? Nobody is going to do it for us, or perhaps waiting for the green light from abroad to do so. It's not a secret, but for the last 3 years, Ukraine has been under the control of Mr. Biden. Ukraine has been under the external control and external management of a Vice President of the United States, Mr. Biden. He was manually deciding who to appoint into what position. I do remember well his wonderful speech in the Rada, emphasizing what people's deputy need to do. How could that be? In my own country, where I was born, it cannot be so. We need to develop a new social contract on how to regulate relations between the people and the state. I have voted for Mr. Poroshenko as presidential candidate, and I do know that he still has this opportunity to change things around and remain in the history of Ukraine as a hero and not a disaster. I'm confident that changes to the constitution has to be initiated by the president and the deputies. We've lost some of our territories, but we haven't lost our country yet. We need to continue our efforts to build non-aligned country by status that coexists in peace with its neighbors. I do understand that there is another option, however, which is a bloody war with Russia until the last Ukrainian soldier. In this case, I will suggest to our government to send their own sons to the front line to die. I myself refuse to do so. True politician who cares for its own country takes responsibility and tells the truth to its own people. The new constitution, new social contract has to be adopted in order to bring the balance into these matters. 112 Ukraine. Are you planning to file a lawsuit against New York Times? If you haven't passed any propositions on Crimean lease, then what have you proposed to the new administration? Have you proposed to hold referendum to lease some of the infrastructural objects in Crimea for 50 or 100 years? What kind of documents have you passed on to the President administration? First of all, there were 2 articles in New York Times. One came on Sunday and the other came on Thursday of the next week. The second one totally refuted the first. The second one stated that it has become known that Andrey Artemenko has not sent any documents and during the meeting have only discussed those matters. I'm very grateful to the journalists of New York Times who have published this information in the editor's column. And if there is any talks concerning myself presenting any form of a documents to the U.S. state official, this needs to be addressed to the person who spreads it. I personally have never handed over any documents in any form of any kind of a plan. And at last, the referendum. According to our constitution, all power belongs to people. And if we are dealing with the very issue of existence of our country, we might as well ask the people. What is the main goal for our country? As far as our government concerns, it's NATO and EU membership. Then explain this to me. What kind of rubbish is this? These are all means. Means cannot become the main purpose of existence of the state. Economy, social care, healthcare can. Membership in the foreign institutions cannot. So I'm convinced our main goal is new constitution, non-allied status, and peace in our country. So I have proposed to hold a referendum not on the lease of a Crimea or any of its infrastructural objects, but rather on the main issue, the main course of our country's development and our geopolitical initiatives. It's pretty simple. I've got some polls here on study of the political views of Internet users for the January 2017 and relations towards the Minsk agreements and the status of the temporarily occupied territories of Donetsk and Lugansk Oblast. This is what Ukrainian people want. They all want peace. Go on the streets and ask for yourself, what is your goal? You're going to hear it over and over again. We wish to have peace. To hold a referendum on the main purpose of the existence of our state is my duty as people's deputy and politician.
Країні потрібна нова конституція, яка буде побудована на нових принципах існування держави, влади. Дякую за запитання.
Останнє запитання.
112 Україна. Пане Андрію, уточніть, будь ласка, якщо Нью-Йорк Таймс неправильно передала ваші слова щодо Криму, чи будете ви позиватися до цього видання? Які саме пропозиції ви передали адміністрації президента щодо Крима? І якщо ви можете зараз стверджувати, що ви не передавали пропозицію щодо того, щоб Крим перейшов в оренду, чи пропонували ви на референдумі вирішувати, що інфраструктурні об'єкти будуть здаватися на 50 або на 100 років? Чи які саме документи ви передали до адміністрації, точніше, щодо Криму?
Дякую за запитання. Ну, по-перше, була не одна стаття в Нью-Йорк Таймс, а дві. Була стаття в неділю, а друга стаття вийшла в четвер, яка фактично повністю спростовує ту першу інформацію, яка була опублікована в неділю. Що дійсно, як стало відомо, Андрій Артеменко ніяких документів не передавав, що він дійсно підтвердив факт зустрічі, і на зустрічі пройшло обговорення саме цих питань. Я вдячний саме журналістам Нью-Йорк Таймс, які в редакційній колонці опублікували саме цю інформацію. Це перше. По-друге, план Артеменко, як вже я сказав, в паперовому віді не існувало ніколи. Я передавав інформацію стосовно своїх пропозицій, які ви тільки що почули. І тому говорити про те, що якісь документи в якомусь вигляді, в якомусь конверті були комусь передані, ну, звичайно, це потрібно звертатися до тих людей, котрі саме про це говорять. Я ніяких документів, ніяких конвертів, ніяких планів нікому нічого не передавав. Ну і останнє – референдум. Так, звичайно. Я вже наголосив, що згідно Конституції всі повнотою влади в країні є український народ. Я переконаний, що по головним питанням існування держави ми повинні, як політики, спитати у народу, що таке головна мета існування держави. Тому що, як я розумію, головна мета існування держави – це членство в НАТО і в ЄС, як сьогодні. Кажіть мені, будь ласка, що це за маячня? Не може бути засіб, а членство – це засіб, головною метою існування держави. Ну не може. Головною метою існування держави може економічний стан в країні, може медичне обслуговування, може шкільна програма, але ні в коєму разі якісь наддержавні установи, які є головною метою України. Це абсурд. І цивілізований світ про це знає. Тому я переконаний, що наша мета – це нова Конституція, позаблоковий статус і мир. Мир в нашій країні. Дякую.
Можете предмет референдуму уточнити? Щодо чого референдум пропонували? Щодо оренди інфраструктурних...
Референдум про майбутнє країни, про позаблоковий статус, про відношення до яким чином повинна розвиватися держава і головне, про наші геополітичні ініціативи. Тобто геополітичні, як вважають українське населення. Дивіться, дуже все просто. Я маю зараз дуже поважну інформацію дослідження політичних поглядів користувачів інтернету в Україні за січень 2017 року. Ви знаєте, яке саме цікаве питання відповідають саме ці дослідження? А також ставлення українців до Мінських домовленостей та статус тимчасово окупованих територій Донецької та Луганської області. Тобто, якщо ви вийдете на вулицю і спитаєте будь-кого, яка ваша мета, ви почуєте тільки одну відповідь – мир. Ми бажаємо миру. Тому референдум про головне питання існування держави, позаблоковий статус чи ні? Да, дійсно, я про це обговорював. І я розумію, що як політик я маю на це право. Більш того, я переконаний і повинен виконувати свої обов'язки згідно закону. Дякую.
Дякую. Прес-конференцію завершено.